and Stadia players, welcome to episode number 28 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast, the weekly show where myself, Tom and Richie, hopefully that was right, join us on our digital isolations that we are and talk about all things Stadia every week, coming to you on a Monday through YouTube channels and podcast platforms. This week, we've got plenty of news surrounding Amazon's Project Tempo, which we're going to get into, and a bunch of other exciting news stories as well. So, without further ado, Tom, give us a wave.
What's up, all my cool cats and kittens? Just thought I'd throw that one out there.
Yeah.
What have I been watching this week?
What have you possibly been watching this week? As a note, me and Richie have not seen this worldwide phenomenon that's sweeping the globe.
Tiger King.
I kind of feel this wouldn't be a thing if everyone wasn't locked in their houses.
Yeah.
Hello there, by the way.
Yeah, hello, Richie, as well. Yeah. It's one of those things that I've had that many people talk about it now. I feel obliged to watch it, but I don't want to give it the satisfaction.
I'm going the other way. I keep hearing people talk about it, and it sounds terrible, and I just don't want to go anywhere near it.
But Tom, you've watched it, so before we get into the important,
let's have our Tiger King review.
Yeah. Why not? Let's to keep it light and fluffy this week. Tom, what? Give us the rundown. What is the synopsis of this, and is it coming to Stadia?
Well, who knows if they'll release a game port of Tiger King, but it's very much it's full of it's a documentary series about the big cat trade in America and sort of like private zoos and people who keep big cats, tigers, lions, cheetahs, all those sorts of things. But it focuses on certain individuals around who are really big players in it. And there's a lot of interesting twists and turns with things like murder, there's mysterious disappearances of people, and then there's also a potential assassination attempt as part of it as well. So it's very interesting.
On a tiger or
no on the owners.
It's the meme.
By tiger.
It's been dubbed the white trash Game of Thrones.
Wow. And I thought you were going to say it was similar to Making a Murderer.
I mean, it's the same sort of docudrama style adaptation, but it's all real life interviews with real people. It follows the story of Joe Exotic, who is, I believe, is an Oklahoma based.
Sounds like a gamer tag.
No.
Welcome to Sounds of Stadia with Joe Exotic.
I mean, if you want to guess on it, why not?
Well, Joe does have a huge internet presence, so if you just Google Joe Exotic, I'm sure you'll find his websites and his many video podcasts as well. But we're here to talk games. It's good. It's worth checking out. I definitely suggest it, but each to their own.
You could tie it with games, it was Mike Tyson, wasn't it, who used to hang out with tigers?
Yes.
As well.
Yes.
So there you go, and then you've got Mike Tyson's punch.
He owned them. He didn't just hang out with them. Just invite them around for a few beers, watch the game.
When you're Mike Tyson, you can do what you want. But yes, let's get back to why we're all here, which is to talk about Stadia games, all things gaming, and everything floating around in the world of the cloud. So let's start with Thomas,
the super sexy special Stadia story segment, aka the news.
Coming to you from our bedrooms and living rooms and offices.
Yeah, I was going to say, you said bedrooms, they can see us, Chris.
I'm in my games room office.
I'm in my office. And
you see, I'm wearing the shirt up top, but who knows what's going on down there off camera.
Business on the top, party underneath.
That's how we roll these days.
You could actually get it, so Tom... I think are we in the same setup as last week? So Richie's below you right now.
Yeah. So Richie is down here. Chris, you're over that way.
And you're over that way because it reverses.
I'm over that way. Right? That's right.
Richie's diagonally down there.
He is. Yes.
So I may have been right with my intro.
You were perfect. It was spot on.
Excellent. I always think Richie could just like dangle some shoes and legs from the top of his ceiling.
Just give you a kick in the head.
Just my lower
just
half.
Like a foot just drops in every now and again.
Just get an old pair of jeans and tie some shoes to the bottom.
Exactly. That is Tom falling out of the cloud into your little cube. But yes, so we do have quite a fair bit of news stories this week. I say a fair bit. It's been a quiet week, but once we start talking about it pre-show, there is actually quite a lot to talk about Stadia specific. And for better or for worse, let's get into the main story of the week, which kind of caught a few of us off guard, dropping from the New York Times of all places. Amazon have got the probably not. I wouldn't even say it was an announcement. It was more of just like a published article piece around Project Tempo, which I don't know about you two, but I did not know it was called that prior to this.
Nope.
No,
It's like
it's
a big
just like
semi-reveal.
it's probably just like the way like I think it was the GameCube was like Project Dolphin. It's that, and they got like Project Scorpio for the Xbox. It's that kind of thing. It's probably not even formally named yet.
No. Of course it won't be, but
Well,
it'll come out eventually.
What did we call our Sounds of Stadia project? Do we have a preliminary name for that? Or
No, I think it was just Sounds of Stadia right from the start.
just right from the get-go, yeah.
Yeti screams.
So the New York Times posted an article essentially just re-highlighting the work Amazon Game Studios have been doing so far, but more so their push into streaming. So the article, just to give you a quick insight into what it covered, is they're talking about Amazon investing hundreds of millions of dollars into the cloud gaming and being a lead creator and distributor of video games, which we've knew about for some time. We spoke about it on previous episodes in the past. Especially with Phil Spencer from Xbox coming out a couple of weeks back saying that his rivals for the future are going to be in the cloud, and it's going to be companies like Google and Amazon who are the big competitors to keep an eye out for. So this kind of story just adds more fuel to the fire that we know they're working on something behind the scenes. The article in question pretty much re-highlights some of the work that Amazon have been putting on behind the scenes for two to 3 years now. We've had some video gameplay footage out for games such as the Crucible. We know they've got studios that are working on games as well. So this particular piece just kind of drills down a little bit more into them being ambitious with the sci-fi shooters. They have a mixed bag. They've got an open world RPG game going on as well. But more importantly, I think what pertains to Stadia, interestingly enough, is they're currently working on fully fledged games that are about to be rolled out this year in the next couple of weeks, if not months, depending on how the kind of world is at that stage. I'm just curious to get your guys' thoughts on the way Amazon are approaching this, which seems to be games first, then platform second, as opposed to Stadia, which has kind of done it in reverse, which is let's get the platform out there, the games will be coming.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think it is a smarter move because if you think about the unique selling point, while Stadia, it's cloud gaming, you can be on the move, but it's not really that anything that Microsoft and Sony aren't already been working on, have been for a while. Things like PS Now has been around for quite a while. I know it wasn't very good, and they got things like remote play, but these things exist. And one of the biggest criticisms of Stadia at the gate was, and still is, where's the games? We're having a lot of game announcements, but apart from Ubisoft and Square, there isn't nothing really huge yet.
Yeah, we've certainly had a lot of support from Ubisoft, but I think Amazon hitting the ground. It's actually a weird one because these games that are in development come out. I don't think they've actually officially said they're coming to Amazon's gaming platform because that's Project Tempo is very much just hush hush under wraps. We don't know anything. In fact, we probably know less about that than we do Stadia Base at this point.
We know nothing,
but which we know nothing about also, except for it's coming soon. # trademark.
I think what worries me a little bit about this is the fact that Amazon also has Twitch behind it as well. So with Project Tempo coming, I can foresee already that a lot of the free games that you get as part of Twitch Prime, they're also probably going to end up coming to Project Tempo as well. Now, I know that's a lot of speculation at the moment, but if you think about the amount of games you get for free per month with Twitch Prime, like getting that as part of Project Tempo for those who subscribe to it, it's going to pad out that library massively in a very quick span of time.
Yeah, no, I completely think you're right there, Tom. And a lot of the stuff the article actually covers from the New York Times is saying that the Amazon ecosystem that they already have and that platform of Twitch, there's already a lot of cross-game pollination. I know when you stream Borderlands, you've got the whole the add-on features that people who are watching along in the audience can actually contribute in-game. And Amazon have built these games with that in mind from the ground up. So some of the ones that talk about Crucible and New World is another one that's also coming out, massive multiplayer online game. They've specifically highlighted Twitch and saying they want people to contribute resources and a bunch of other stuff and create events and almost be part of the game just by being sat in the audience. And with Twitch already in their wheelhouse, that's huge. And I know Google are trying to pivot in towards YouTube gaming and get that cross-pollination set up there as well. But us three have all sat here and we're still very light on information with what that actually pertains to.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. With streaming as well, with how big streaming is, I don't think any console does it well. There isn't a single console where you can actually go in, you can import your own custom overlays or whatever it is to kind of personalize your stream.
Yeah.
Stadia, despite them talking big about YouTube integration at GDC last year, basically has zero YouTube integration at this point.
Yeah, there's no way to stream directly from the device. I mean, we all do it
Yeah.
through our own capture cards and so on. Now, the one thing I want to pick up on with this article as well, in particular looking at these games that are in development. So, Chris, you just mentioned about New World, MMO. I'd be very interested to see how successful that is, because the MMO market is very oversaturated and has been. Plus, the boom for the MMO market sort of came around 2008.
On the back of WoW.
Yeah, but on the back of World of Warcraft. That has sort of like, it peaked, and has sort of like fizzled out since then. If it revitalizes the MMO market, fantastic. But there are a lot of MMO games that come particularly from the Asian market that we, A, never hear of, or B, if we do hear of them, they fizzle and die out very quickly. Star Wars The Old Republic was a big example from EA and BioWare. Granted, that's been quite a few years since it came out now, but its player base has dwindled massively. I think the only two big players out there at the moment are still World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV. Other than that,
ESO.
ESO.
That's actually done the opposite to what most of the MMOs have, where it had a massive spike of interest because it was not far long after Skyrim actually, and then it dwindled because the game, to be honest, wasn't up to scratch. I played the beta of it and it was terrible. But over the years, it's slowly been building its audience.
What I find quite interesting as well is that the studio is also developing a Lord of the Rings MMORPG.
Yeah, so there's a lot of focus on the games that are coming out. Like I said, I've done a bit of a deeper dive into the actual games themselves. The New World one you mentioned, Tom, reminds me quite a lot of Ark Survival Evolved, where you rock up on a beach, set your fire, you start gathering your resources, and then over time you'll evolve into a community, soldiers, armor, all that, weapons and stuff. They'll basically get larger as you play through the game, and you really get into the meat and bones of it. But yeah, further in the article, they also mentioned that we've got to remember Amazon Prime now have the rights to the Lord of the Rings TV series, working in line with the Tolkien Estate and New Line Cinema to kind of bring that to life, which I think is scheduled. Is it next year? It's supposed to be dropping on Amazon Prime, I think.
21, yeah, I think it is 2021.
Yeah. So then, yeah, it's snuck under the radar again. There's a Lord of the Rings game in development. And if you look at Crucible and New World, you can see what demographic that Amazon are funneling these games towards. And it is that, like I said, already saturated market, but with an IP like Lord of the Rings as well.
Yeah, I think
huge pulls.
With Lord of the Rings, I think Shadow of Mordor showed how good a Lord of the Rings game could be. I know Shadow of War wasn't as well received because of the controversy over loot boxes and things.
Mm-hmm.
But it just shows that well. It's so rich for telling unique stories in there.
It is, but again, having played a lot of IP-specific MMO games, I can tell you it doesn't make everything. Like, I've played Lord of the Rings Online, I've played Star Wars The Old Republic, I've played all of these big games that have built on these massive IPs, and while the storytelling can be great and having that lore-rich world to build with, the gameplay has to be on point. Like the mechanics that it introduces, it has to be captivating. It has to keep your interest, and it has to be good. You can't have something that's a buggy piece of shit that you end up going around doing fetch quests for Joe. I was going to say Baggins. Like the barkeeper, the prancing pony or something like that. Like, you don't want to be going out and fetching 5 beetle husks or something like that for him.
Yeah, I think that was one of the successes of World of Warcraft, where Warcraft 3 was an awesome game and it was massive.
It was.
But it was maybe Warcraft was what got people interested in the MMO, but it was the quality of the game that got people to stay.
Yeah, and I think it was very unique at that point as well. Like the MMO boom was hitting. I think what we should say as well on the side of this article as well, because I know we're getting very off topic about Project Tempo itself and as a rival to Stadia, But these games are announced as MMO, not MMORPG. And again, I've said before on the podcast, there is a big difference. As you said, Chris, New World is very much like Ark, which Ark is not an MMORPG. It is a mass multiplayer online game. It's just a game with lots of people in it, in a single persistent world.
I think RPGs have been somewhat diluted nowadays anyway, because practically every AAA title has some sort of RPG elements in. Your basic level ups, talent tree stuff, in practically everything.
Yeah, it's sort of like a pseudo game type.
Yeah. Out of all three games in particular, the New World is the one that's probably caught my eye the most. Just I enjoy the style of it. So it's kind of like the brief synopsis thing. It's set in the mid 1600s. Players colonize a fictional land modeled after British America in the Atlantic Ocean. Players scavenge resources, craft items, and fight other players. The game will work off a pay to play model. The closed beta apparently is live now.
Oh wow, they are choosing pay to play. Okay.
Yeah, it's not one of those free ones. But just looking at the gameplay, it's aesthetically wise, that's the kind of like that high fantasy world that appeals to me. Whereas the Crucible just looks like another shooter.
Yeah, pay to play in particular. I think with a pay to play title, it has to have something that really captivates people to want to get into. I know I'm using that word a lot at the moment, but if you are going to have to pay for a service, or perhaps it's a free platform, we don't know. But if you are going to have to pay to play it on a persistent online rolling fee, you've got to have some sort of incentive for how you get people to do that. Like, it has to be a good title in order to succeed in that market.
Yeah, but there's different ways you can get people in, especially with like Amazon Prime and Twitch Prime. They could just go, okay, you have Twitch Prime, you have 1 month of this game free. And that's an incentive to give it a go.
Yeah. Now, one thing I will point out about these games is in opposition to Stadia, these all seem very PC focused.
Yep.
What are our thoughts on Project Tempo being maybe as a PC centric platform to start off with, and then it's going to roll out? Because can we see Amazon coming out with a controller like Stadia and pushing it to very much the traditional gamers who have consoles? Or with just looking at the games that they've got in the library, the Lord of the Rings one, New World, Crucible, they definitely seem to be leaning more towards your PC.
I think you do need some sort of controller nowadays, because most games are developed for consoles and ported back over to PC, where in the past there was certain genres where exclusively PC titles and converted the other way later.
I think it's also really important to actually note as well, a lot of young children at the moment, who are going to grow up and essentially take the gaming market forward. A lot of them don't have PCs at home, or they may have iPads, they may have tablets. So I think they're more likely to want to access something with a controller, because they're usually a PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo child, should we say?
Child.
Yeah.
Child.
They're a child of one of the franchises.
Yeah. As big as PC gaming is, it is niche, because one of the reasons is just how expensive the hardware is to get set up. So if you're a parent buying games for your kids, what are you going to fork out £1,000 for a gaming PC when you can pick up Stadia's 120?
Yeah, I see them very much taking along the same sort of lines as Stadia has gone, with the Chromecast and a controller and so on. And I see it just happening. Nature. Yeah, just go for the Amazon Fire Pro stick or something like that.
Yeah. Amazon Inferno stick.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, but that Apple ecosystem, that Amazon ecosystem. You're right there with them having that pillar of Twitch and then their delivery logistics and such. Like, you can guarantee, or you'd hope to guarantee anyway, if we remember everything we went through with our Stadia Founders Editions being delivered on a variety of different days and times from launch, you've got to imagine Amazon are going to have all that tied down for physical deliveries. And like you said, Tom, they have the Fire Stick set up already, so they're in quite a good position. But I just think it's really interesting looking at their game catalogue. The Crucible in particular was actually announced at TwitchCon. So another arm of this industry that we've not realised is they actually have their own, well, not at this moment in time, it's probably delayed and such, but in terms of announcements, they have their own platform already to do. I know we've theorised when the hell are we going to get another Stadia Connect. They have TwitchCon every year already. It's like a default place where thousands of people gather, their eyes are on it to see what announcements. So it's almost like a perfect storm.
I think what's really important to mention there is not only is it a group of thousands of people, it's thousands of gamers. Whereas a YouTube convention, for example, like a creators convention, is not specifically gamers. So Google doesn't have that at the moment.
Yeah. which it just gives a lot of onus as to what they need to work on this year. And I think we want to definitely approach this with open eyes, which we've already been very clear on this podcast many, many times before, that we'll always address things that are doing stuff well and when they're not doing so well, whether that be Stadia or other platforms. But from what I've looked into over this Project Tempo over the last couple of days, it looks good. I think it's in a good place to hit the market, which it makes me fearful of Stadia, because then that just gives people another excuse to then jump on the bandwagon of what they've not done. Once you've got those comparisons, it's very easy to see what one is doing and what the other isn't.
It depends on the release timeline. We're only just starting to actually hear about. I know there's been lots of rumors, but this is probably the first time we've heard exclusively that they are working on a cloud streaming platform.
Yeah.
So you don't know what the timeline's going to be. In the next year, Stadia might have got the games that we're after. It might have got to that level that we expect it to get to. So it depends. I think it's smart from Amazon actually to focus on the games first. But are they going to publish them on their own platform only, or is it going to be published elsewhere? It's hard to say at this point.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Amazon, unlike Google as well, will suffer from the logistical kind of balance between physical media and hardware as well, because you've got to remember, a lot of people order their PlayStations, Xboxes and Switches from Amazon. Yeah. If you then have to go and negotiate with all those third-party studios, that bread is very much buttered with the likes of PlayStation and Xbox right now, and you're going to come to them with a platform that's going to have no requirement potentially for physical delivery, if it is another cloud streaming platform that it ends up being, you're going to rock the boat a little bit with where a lot of your kind of I'm trying to think what the words are for it, the way you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm trying to say? Like these people you've had partnerships with for decades.
It's even Twitch. Twitch is on it's on Xbox and on PlayStation. And although I don't think the streaming capabilities of the platforms are very good in terms of what you can do with them, they are there.
It's hands in all the pies again. It's Amazon want their share of the market now, and I think it's I don't see Microsoft and Sony backing down from the sales through Amazon, because I think they have to sort of give in to the giant that is Amazon and the distribution network that is Amazon, because they're not going to be able to rival that service.
Microsoft is different because with Phil Spencer, the ex-boss himself, saying that he sees Amazon and Google as the bigger threat. It's that to me always sort of like you're focusing the next era of Xbox in the cloud rather than the physical stuff. So, which means that, Microsoft are a huge company. They can run a good cloud service, and if it's just like Stadia, you go in straight into your game, there's no downloads or anything with xCloud, which as we expect, they won't be relying on Amazon for that.
Yeah.
Apart from maybe the physical delivery of the console, but I'm sure Microsoft could find ways to handle that.
We are genuinely on the cusp of the whole gaming landscape changing, and I think there's a lot of people who don't realise it out there. But we've seen the way the world is right now, the impact it's having on physical brick and mortar stores. Yeah. You hear stories all the time of places being closed down, jobs being suspended, and such, and how the actual world is going to look after all this passes us by. And then the later ramifications on the game industry as general. We've seen game delays get hit. We've seen conventions and stuff closed down. We've seen things move to a digital platform. And yeah, you're right in saying those relationships did exist, but the way everyone in the background is moving towards digital and cloud, it's only a matter of time, surely. But there are certain companies that seem to be either ahead of the curve or they're a bit behind. My personal take on the likes of PlayStation, they may have the content and their exclusives, but in terms of their infrastructure, I think it's quite bad, actually.
Yep.
Sony could easily go the way Sega did, where it's actually not worthwhile them making a PlayStation in the future, and it's better to just focus on the game publishing side of it.
I mean, we've theorized plenty of times about why Stadia is so beneficial. It's that cost of entry and the fact that it's virtually non-existent in comparison. And the rumors that are circulating around parts and components for the new gen consoles is going to be potentially higher than it ever has been. And again, how are they now going to ship them out logistically with the way the world is? It's a really weird one, but there's so many plates spinning at the moment, and some of them are going to get dropped.
Next gen's going to be interesting because we went from typically having two premium consoles going against each other, Nintendo off doing Nintendo things, well, it's Sony against Microsoft for basically the last two generations, and now we've got four.
Yeah. Will Sega make a
Will all four survive? It is a genuine question. Can all four these platforms survive?
Yeah, it's
yeah.
it's like the space race again, isn't it? Now we're at the point where everyone now wants to be the first one to do something miraculous.
Well, it's totally true, and in the article, it actually referenced the games industry. So it quotes, gaming is expected to generate more than $160 billion in revenue in 2020, making the business more than twice the size of the global record music industry, worldwide film box office combined. So now with the way that everyone's staying at home, and the World Health Organization are now recommending people play games to help with their well-being and their sanity, as opposed to rewind a few months ago when gaming addiction was a terrible thing and everybody should prevent the children from touching the stuff. Now apparently it's really good for you.
That wasn't the World Health Organization. They recognised gaming addiction as a real thing, which it is.
Yeah, 100%.
It was.
I don't know what you're talking about, Richie.
It was the press that carried it off to be like, "Oh my God, games are going to kill your children." It's like, no, just be a decent parent. Don't let your kids play for 24 hours a day.
Yeah, a lot of it does come down to parental. I say that having no children of my own.
Yeah,
but yes, just my dad when I used to play with my brother, it used to just first of all it used to be turn the TV off, to take the remote away so we couldn't turn it on. And then obviously you just get out of bed and turn it on at the actual buttons on the screen. Then he realised that, so he'd unplug it from the wall. So then when he would come upstairs, we would have to quickly shuffle to unplug it from the wall, jump into bed, duvet over. And then he took it another step further. He removed the fuse from the plug. So
what a savage!
So we couldn't actually just plug it in the wall, which in hindsight, from a parental learning perspective, I, as a young child, learned how to change the fuse of a plug to remedy because I knew he had these little, unintentionally, I knew he had these little small battery things, the fuse, in his man drawer. Yeah. So I had to figure out how to do that. So not only did I have to
with your lunch money, that's when you know you got a problem.
Exactly. So when you hear your parents coming to bed as a 7-8-year-old child, it's very quickly right. Lee, brother, you watch the door. I'm going to defuse the plug, unget it, turn the TV off, jump into bed, and then we've got to act like everything's smooth. Brilliant.
That fake sleep where your parents going, they know you're faking. You know they know, but you've got away with it.
You're just lying there going...
Having breakfast next morning, it's like, oh, we were up late last night, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. And by the age of 10, I had a master's. No, didn't really. But yeah, I just think that, and the kids with Stadia nowadays don't have, just the whole thing's just shut it down. Don't, just turn the screen off and it'll keep your status frozen for 15 minutes, is it? Your parents will have moved on in 15
Absolutely.
minutes.
Yeah, they'll have gone.
Nice,
they'll have taken all the fuses in the house.
Well, you can play on your phone as well. So your parents take your phone off you.
Quickly switch device. Mum's come in.
Yeah, what they need is like a parental EMP. Just boom, and then woo, 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 just everything in the house just shuts down. No one's going to be playing anything. We'll go back and play chess.
You know what you do? You just unplug the router.
I was just going to say that. Actually, there's one massive fact.
That's a parenting tip for you there.
But Stadia on 5G, right? 4G.
Buy a signal blocker.
So that was interesting, actually. Richie, you came across it this week. I noticed in the chat forums where you're quite active in replying to people and helping out, and hopefully they do appreciate you being a helpful little busybody down there. But someone pointed out to you about using Stadia on your mobile device. They said using it over LTE 5G, 4G connectivity, and I'd noticed that. And when I've used my Samsung Galaxy S10 in hotels, it has had to be connected to Wi-Fi. Yeah,
I actually at the time when I was replying to him, he said, "Oh, I can use it on my 4G, 5G." I was like, "Really?" I've just got a new phone, my Pixel 4 XL, so I was like, I went into Stadia and I couldn't connect. It wouldn't let me connect unless I was attached to Wi-Fi.
Yeah, mine prompts for Wi-Fi as well, so I don't know what.
I think the guy was in Canada.
I didn't realise there was different rules and restrictions per country. But my assumption was due to data caps and limitations, they would naturally limit it for the best quality service through Wi-Fi. Even though in an ironic twist of fate, 5G and 4G is infinitely better than most hot Wi-Fi locations and hotspots anyway.
It might be something that Google is slowly rolling out and haven't announced that they're doing, because that is such a Google move. But from what I know, in the UK and the US, it's Wi-Fi only for the time being. But apparently Canada, you're good.
Well, I wouldn't know anything about that because apparently...
I was just going to say that. Mr. iOS over there.
Who knows if I'll ever get Stadia on my phone now?
Yeah, so have seen some new stories come out around iOS and Apple's actual restrictions on that. They've clamped down on their agreement terms or something, and now that's apparently going to have a knock-on effect with the likes of Stadia and xCloud not coming to iOS.
Yeah, there have actually been some recent developments in that where I think they've sort of gone back on their word slightly, and they've sort of they're alleviating the circumstances and looking at the terms in relation to these streaming platforms as well. Because I think they realize that actually a lot of people use things like Netflix, use things like YouTube and so on. And the terms around it would also affect those services. And I think Apple would very much be hamstringing themselves in that perspective there, because Apple TV it's okay. Yeah. It's not something to sing praises about. It has a few decent exclusives on it.
You can play Crossy Road.
You can play Crossy Road on the arcade, absolutely. But yeah, it would be really frustrating at this point to find out that I wouldn't be able to access Stadia. People wouldn't be able to access GeForce Now, xCloud, or any of these services. And I think from a gaming perspective or from a consumer perspective, I think a lot of people would actually jump ship if it came to that point. I know if it turned out to be that they wouldn't allow Stadia to work the same way it does on Android-based phones, then I would very much consider moving, even though I haven't considered it for a long time. That would be the defining thing for me.
Yeah, I think it's probably just legacy stuff with Apple, where Apple have always boasted that things like back in the day, you can get less viruses on an Apple Mac than on PC. Part of that is because they just made it almost impossible to get anything on the platform. So most of the Apple software is very good, but it is Apple software. Where PC's been a bit more open. I think it's just that same sort of thing where things have changed. They need to review their terms of service sort of stuff.
Yeah, they're kind of in a catch-22. Obviously, they're trying to protect their own assets, any business should do, but also they're limiting. It's probably more for the smaller companies. I think you're right, Tom. Like the likes of Netflix and stuff, and the bigger companies who are going to push back on these terms and agreements. I think it's there more to stop the smaller companies who do usually have like Trojan horses or spam or something like that. Which there's millions and thousands of apps out there that do this day and day, and Android's rife with it as well. So I can understand why they're doing that. But back to our previous conversation about Amazon ecosystem Project Tempo is. All of these big players have to play well with the others too. So there's always that dangerous dance that they're doing with like Amazon and Google. The reality is everybody uses Google, even on an iPhone still. The YouTube is all still used. So that cross integration is always going to be there. And the amount of money that gets exchanged behind the scenes within these massive companies and these agreements, I can't even fathom where they must start on them. But yeah, I can't imagine Stadia not coming to iOS. When you see the news articles and the Stadia hate videos are going to crop up going, why it's never going to come to iOS? It will.
Google have sometimes it's just money talks. Google have the money to force Apple to make an exception if they want to.
Yeah. And if they all do well, they all make money. That's the thing. Yeah. We talk about Project Tempo. If that does well, it breeds healthier competition. If we've got more, like you said, Richie, we've got 4 or 5 cloud-based gaming things in 5 to 10 years. It's just healthy competition. It pushes them to strive and be more creative and bring up better content. So us as consumers and gamers, why wouldn't we want that?
Well, this is a question for you, Chris, because this is kind of up your alley. What sort of percentage are we looking in terms of the share of market space that Apple has for phones?
Well, off the top of my head, I think I'd probably say it's about 30 to 40%.
So 30 or 40%.
But Samsung's about 40. Samsung's actually the biggest. They're up there, and then the likes of Huawei and a few others have massively came out the gate recently. And then as we joke about ecosystems, obviously Google clamped down on Huawei being able to bring Android to their devices, which is now knocked Huawei a couple of pegs back, because they're no longer going forward are going to be allowed to have Android, whether that's to do with Mr. Trump or the wider spectrum of US versus China relations and all that kind of thing.
Geopolitical situations.
Yeah, it has such a large impact. But Android is definitely the bigger chunk overall as an operating system. But Apple hold their own as an individual company.
But we're still looking about 25 to 35% of the entire market. For Google, if you're Google, it's worth getting Stadia on that if it costs you money.
Oh yeah.
100%. And again, because it's just breaking that ecosystem. Because everyone who's traditionally got an iPhone probably has an iPad as well, possibly has an Apple Mac. probably used to have an iPod Shuffle back in the day as well. The reality is, once you're baked in that ecosystem, you don't want to leave. So it's very, very smart that these companies do have these cross-pollination deals, just to slowly chip away. Like you were just saying there, Tom, something that would potentially force you to jump is something like this.
Absolutely.
And if they hadn't chipped away at something in creation like Stadia, yes, you might not have Stadia forever, but you know what? If you switch over to an Android device for your mobile phone, that's a whole different industry in its own right that makes millions upon millions. So they all funnel into each other, and they all feed into each other at some point. But they've just got to stay active and keep chipping away. But it's coming. It's coming. Don't worry, Tom. You'll get there. You'll join us in the golden fields eventually.
I'll never get out of bed at this rate. the day it does, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be hardwired in.
You know what? I'd play on my phone more if things like the Claw was a bit more readily available.
The Claw. That's what Tom's microphone's attached to, didn't we say?
The
Claw.
It's a lovely new microphone stand. Because you had a bit of a disaster earlier in the week, didn't you, Tom?
Yeah, I did.
What actually happened there?
The actual clamp to the desk broke. It's been giving way for a while, so I moved it around quite a bit because I use this microphone as well, even when I'm gaming online, because I like that crisp audio quality in my online games when I'm absolutely harassing and ripping the shit out of my fellow players online competitively. No, but it gave way. So I took to Twitter and I just shouted, just asked the community what would they recommend, and I took one Stadia Arcadia. Shout out to Tommy over at Stadia Source over there for recommending the Rode PSA 1, which I now have here. So shout out to Rode as well there.
Shout out. And who delivered that?
That was delivered by Amazon. Shout out to Amazon.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere. But speaking of all the big companies that we've joked and discussed at that point, Project Tempo is definitely on the horizon, and I, for one, am interested to see what games they bring to the world, because for all we know, these games could be on Stadia too. At this point, we just do not know what their plans are, and we'll probably hear more about it in the future. One of the places we may hear about it in particular is IGN have announced the Summer of Gaming event, which is going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks and months, where by the looks of it, they're going to be showcasing essentially a digital E3. So they've said it's coming in June. It says on the article, it says IGN are proud to announce our new Summer of Gaming event, a global digital event set to begin in June to bring you the latest news and impressions around upcoming games and the next generation of console hardware. They've got deals with 2K, Square Enix, Sega, Bandai Namco. Importantly for me, Amazon and Google Stadia, Devolver Digital, THQ Nordic, and a bunch of other ones, and no doubt more going forward. But gentlemen, it looks like E3 is potentially back on with the help and thanks to IGN.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Was Amazon scheduled to be at E3? I can't remember.
I don't think we had an actual set E3 schedule. I mean, we presumed Stadia were going to be there. I know we theorized them going big and bringing us some announcements and some fresh content, but now we actually see it on paper. Yes, Stadia and Amazon are going to be at this Summer of Gaming event that we've got going.
And Microsoft and PlayStation appear not to be yet.
Well, it does say bringing you the new hardware as well. So my guess is to showcase the new next generation of console hardware, they kind of have to be there, right?
Amazon Inferno Stick coming soon.
I suppose it depends if IGN have got like early versions of it, but PlayStation and Microsoft are not officially supporting the event, but just went, yeah, you can show it off.
Yeah,
it seems weird considering they should be in the ramping up the marketing probably from E3.
Well, it's interesting because every marketing budgets and plans have had to drastically change this summer. We remember, obviously, Sony was skipping E3 for a second year anyway, so they already had their plans to go digital regardless. Microsoft doubled down on their stage presence at the Microsoft Theater, whatever it's called, over in America, and they were still going to go big at E3. Obviously, we presume Stadia were going to come to the forefront, and Amazon evidently looked like they were planning on doing something too. Now that's all changed and gone on this digital IGN front. Anything could happen, really. And my guess is IGN are just going to, from what the article states, it's essentially they're going to host content, they're going to have developer interviews, pre and post discussions, and hands-on demos and preview impressions. So if anything, it sounds exactly like E3.
It's a consumer side of E3.
But with pre-recorded content. And for one, I divulged quite a lot of it, IGN material. And the fact that they're going to keep it probably very systematically familiar with what E3 looked like anyway. They do their interviews ahead of time. They go live over to the stage where they then showcase whatever Xbox have got to show off or whoever. And then they pull it back in for a discussion about what they've just seen. So in theory, it shouldn't seem too different to us three living on the other side of the pond who probably have to consume it all through YouTube anyway. Here we go. But what are your takes on that? Are you glad we've got something concrete in place now, gents?
It's always nice to get some gaming convention-related stuff. Get some announcements, hands-on demo. I think the hands-on demos is the big part for me. I always like seeing the gameplays. I think the two biggest things I always enjoy most about E3 are the game announcements, the hype around the trailers, and then the hands-on demo of the actual gameplay. Usually the memes that come from it as well. I will miss those E3 memes of no, the batteries died on the controller, go figure, that sort of thing.
Was it the crab hit its weak point to do massive damage?
Absolutely. Giant enemy crabs.
My body is ready.
Ridge Racer.
It was even was it Nintendo? The last one brought out a couch on stage. I can't remember. They made like a tiny little fake living.
Nintendo, they haven't done a stage presence at E3 for a couple of years. They just do a big direct, and they also have their treehouse thing.
The indies and such.
Yeah.
But for one, I'm just happy to see that Stadia is now again in the list with those other names, and even though we know that the content's going to be digital, I'm just happy. Just like I said, Tom, it's all about the hype. It's all about that build up to what was the biggest gaming convention. I think
now
we've got something. Coming. Yeah, now we've got something locked in. I'm excited. We've got June. We're in April now, so June isn't actually that far away. And the way the days are all blending together at the moment, it'll be tomorrow before I realise. It'll be literally tomorrow. I'm surprised we all managed to get together on a Sunday to record because
it's Sunday.
It's Sunday, It's actually 4 in the morning on a Thursday, and we're all just delirious as shit.
I mean, my blinds have been shut for God knows how long. So
it's waking up tomorrow morning. Remember that I actually am at work because I'm actually working from home for one of the few times tomorrow.
So, by the looks of it, though, the IGN content as well have said they generally span lots of countries, lots of languages, and they're going to bring it all across all the different platforms, all the social feeds. And they're going to have more information drop about this as we get close to the time. So my guess is they're going to be finalising these deals with all the big players, see who wants to take part, reach out to developers, reach out to publishers. And off the back of a lot of delays we've had already this year, the question begs is how much they can bring to the table. So we know Cyberpunk, all of Ubisoft's catalogue got pushed back. Do we expect to see those at these events? Or are they all now having like a domino effect, getting pushed back further and further into 2021?
I think it's inevitable that we do get game delays across everything at the moment. And I think the interesting thing to take away from it is it's not actually delayed in terms of the development of these in most cases. It's actually in the distribution and the distribution agreements that are in place, because you've got to think about it, right? The games can be developed remotely because coding can be done from any computer as long as you've got access to the software and the repositories and so on. But it's the distribution deals you have to have with the manufacturers of the box art. Once you've created that, you've got to get that actually produced. You've got the CDs or the discs themselves, and then the actual management of shipping them worldwide as well. So that's where the knock-on effect is going to be.
Physically not being in the studio when people work for coding, you can work at home, but that will slow things down, because if you get a tricky bit of code, you can't just shout across your desk to your colleague to help out. That's not available. And so that will slow things down. But it's also things like the certification. These have to go to be certified before they can be sold. And if they're running on skeleton staff, that'll slow that process down. So it's all them little bits of the chain that are just slowed down.
I just immediately thought of like a bunch of skeletons who were left in the office when they took everything down.
All your skeletons can go.
Skeleton staff on the keyboard, just with a headset on and stuff, waiting for certification requests to come through.
Skeleton now works in a call center.
Yeah. One of them picks up one of these games like Get Packed or something and goes, "That's humorous."
Oh, that's so bad. Anyway, moving on from the summer of gaming, which no doubt we've got stories on over the coming weeks. Bringing you exciting news and stories and some hype, hopefully. We've got a nice quick one. YouTube Premium are giving away 3 months of Stadia for free. So that appears to be, I believe it was only in the UK that actually, I'll just double check that, but I saw somewhere it was about that. Essentially, anyone who's got YouTube, you guys have Premium, or have you trialed it at all?
No, I haven't, and I probably won't unless they get some sort of service in place, like Twitch Prime, for example. But yeah, you are right that all of these reports have been coming from the UK, and I have seen people on Reddit, on Facebook, on Twitter, who've all been shouting out just to say thank you to the Stadia team for providing them with an opportunity to get in on the actual platform itself and get into the service.
It's very interesting that they're trying all these different ways. We saw in America the Premium Edition was cut down in price. We've seen obviously the Buddy Pass, and we got the second Buddy Pass followed shortly around Christmas time. And now we seem to have people who are on YouTube. So this is the cross-pollination conversation again, where I had YouTube Premium for, I think, 6 months. I think I actually got 6 months free with my, when I got my Samsung phone. It just popped up saying, if you've got a Samsung device, would you like to trial this? Free for 6 months. Fantastic. It totally conditioned me in forgetting that YouTube has advertisements pop up all the time. And once the free trial ended and I went back to good old classic YouTube, my word, video adverts. Like, just be grateful out there, listeners and viewers, that we're not to that large scale yet where we can monetize this shit. And you actually just get our faces for free, no ads, start to finish, pure content as it should be digested anyway.
The ads don't bother me on YouTube because I understand that this is what's providing the platform. Without the ads, the platform doesn't exist. And most of them are skippable anyway. It's annoying, it's tedious, but
that's necessary. The thing, isn't it? Yeah. It's not so much the ones that bookend the videos that get me. Yeah. It's the ones that that are sprinkled in. Like, some of them are terrible. For
Add in 5 seconds.
Yeah, and it's like every 20 minutes or any time they discuss a pertinent topic, it's like
cuts,
and then it cuts to an advert. Yeah, cuts away, and it's just
and some of them are skippable. Some of them you have to sit through as well and wait until it's done. Yeah. Now, as we bitch and moan about YouTube, obviously there is an answer to that. It's fork out the cash for YouTube Premium. And in turn, if you have YouTube Premium, obviously, and you reside in the UK, you may be sent an email. So keep an eye on your inbox for 3 months free as well. So it's a nice one. 11... They get 9 games is currently ticking around to claim as part of the Pro thing. So I'm curious as to how that kind of hook, line, and sinker is going to work. He's a free trial. He's 9 games for you to test on trial. If you happen to put any money down for one title, like Doom or Borderlands or something, what that then plays on your mind with getting back in. So I spoke to our friend Luke, who we gave a buddy pass to back in November time when it was. He's playing the Serious Sam collection now, and it's month by month he's slowly turning into more of a Stadia player. Yeah. Not Stadia player 1, Eddie, don't mind, he's not after you. But he's more of a Stadia player purely because he's had this kind of free introduction to it. There's no limitations on software. The games are coming out, they're being sprinkled out. We've said there's quite a lot of Stadia games that have landed. And he's getting a different taste of different levels of gaming that he otherwise lapsed on and not played. And there he is. We're probably past the end of the buddy period now, and he's going to subscribe. So it works. In theory, it works getting those free samples out there.
The one thing I noticed though about YouTube Premium is $11.99 seems quite steep. Seems quite expensive.
It passes that 10 mark, doesn't it? Where it's no longer $99.95.
Even that, if you're mainly using it to not watch ads, that seems expensive. Anyway,
I think you get other stuff as well. You're able to download. And a bunch of other packs.
Lost you there for a second.
Your microphone cut out then. Yeah.
Right, this is the thing that we've had every episode. This time, it's circa 45 minutes into the episode.
Yeah.
I have my suspicion. We'll talk about it after the episode.
Right.
But one thing I was going to add about this with YouTube Premium and Stadia is I think right now my personal thought about how to boost the Stadia ecosystem is get more people in. However you do it, get more people in, because at the moment, base. Well, yeah, we keep harping on about base, and I do firmly believe that base will be the thing that will boost Stadia overall. But the big thing for me at the moment is my impression is that it's not easy to get into this ecosystem at the moment. You either have to fork out for the Premier Edition, or you have to be lucky enough to get a buddy pass of some kind. So Stadia do need to be rolling out those methods of getting those passes or getting those trials to people, just so they can actually try it out, because at least then, we can see more people on board, and more people on board means more sales for games, and more sales for games ends up actually being more attractive to big developers or the publishers like EA. We know that EA is sitting on the sidelines waiting for the right moment where they think economically, like from a business perspective, that it's good enough to get involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But unless you're actually getting enough people involved to do that, you're never going to get there.
The thing is, EA, Activision are two publishers that are completely missing, but they are system sellers. People buy consoles for Call of Duty, and people buy consoles for FIFA exclusively.
You need the third-party support. We've seen it kill the Wii U. We've seen it kill many platforms where if you don't get the lots of portable handhelds, I think the PlayStation Vita died because you didn't have that third-party mass support like your FIFA games, like your other sports games, your shooters. And once they drop off, you're limited to your first party, and it's hard to crank out games at a steady pace that keeps people engaged. So yeah, you're totally right in what you're saying. I have no doubt that they're coming, but you're right. I think it's just a numbers game until it's financially viable for them. We're just going to sit on the fence until that needle ticks.
But they need to have some sort of way of trickling this out to people, because there are people who we've said time and time before, there are people who are interested in wanting to get in but have no way financially of getting in. And then we also have people who are naysayers, but they're naysayers who haven't even tried it. So
you need to bridge that, and the only way to do it is to get people hands on. And £120 for a games console is quite cheap. £120 for a games console that you've heard largely negative things about, so you're skeptical, is quite expensive.
Yeah. You need to be rolling. I mean, this is the kind of thing that I expect to see, and I expect to see them possibly doing drops through other services or however they do it. I know they did it. Didn't they do it with Google One as well? They had some sort of tie-in with Google One, or they gave some money back on Google One or something recently as well. But they should look to their other services as well, like people who use Gmail, maybe randomly drop it into a Gmail accounts and so on. People who pay for Google Drive.
YouTube why isn't it all over YouTube advertised?
Yeah. To be fair, this last week I've noticed a lot of Stadia adverts crop up in my YouTube feed. They're very, very short, random adverts, mind. I actually saw the wording in one change because I noticed it. It was very much some video footage of the crew and Doom. It showed you some footage in the background. It comes up saying, play now, big white letters across, like classic Stadia advertising. Play now, buy now, end of advert. That
did not even have the classic Stadia.
No, I actually thought at one point it actually took me for a pause because I thought it looked like subliminal messaging. It didn't even say available now at stadia.com. It was just buy now was the big white letters right across the middle of the screen, and that was it on a 6-7 second advert. Just went, yeah, he's the game. He's like a snippet of footage. Buy now.
Oh my god! That was it. They have on the end of every trailer they push that was coming quite iconic Stadia thing. It reminds me of the old Sega little entry, Sega. They have that for Stadia.
Sorry, what was that, Richie?
Everything. Sega. But yeah, they have that thing. It's 1 second long. But if they have that right at the front of the ad, you now know you're watching a Stadia ad, and it's in your head.
The crowd chant that you've got going.
Well, that was a mini rant.
But either way, we know they're coming.
Yeah.
Along with some other things. So one of the final stories of the week is we got 2 new game announcements. Hashtag coming soon to Stadia. Just to give you a quick rundown, we've got 2 of them. We've got Gunsport was announced, and we've also got Just Shapes and Beats. The 2 games in particular are very different, unlike the last drop we had where it was the 2 similar puzzle games. We've got Gunsport, which, as I quote, is play with family at home or with friends online in Gunsport. The features of that are it's a 2v2 volleyball with guns, 5 stages, 5 teams, a story mode, and of course online multiplayer, designed as a mini esport that encourages teamwork and friendly competition. Each team has the same main weapon, which is to shoot a single ball into the opposition team's goals. But under certain conditions, players can activate their team's unique special weapons and attempt to get ahead or turn the tide. So it's volleyball with guns, gentlemen.
Yes, it is.
Does that sound crazy enough to work?
Maybe.
What's your take on this one, Gunsport?
I'm not sold on it, but again, if it was a pro game, I'd give it a go. But I can't see me putting much time into it.
It's interesting that the developers behind this actually said that they had started and then shelved the development of this game.
That's not good.
Until they got to the point where they were approached and then said, yeah, okay, we'll finish off the development of this game for you.
Basically, Google turned up with a sack of money and this is the game.
You got any games for us?
Yeah. He's like, yeah, we've got this thing where we shelved it because we didn't run out of money for its development. Oh, we'll finish that. I'm like, fine.
Yeah.
Well, if we have to.
It might be a case
Get a
of if
skeleton
you
crew in.
finish this game, get out on Stadia, and we'll fund the development of your next game.
I very much see that in particular as being one of the pro indie games.
Yeah.
I don't for a second think that I would buy it. I like the pixel art style. I like the futuristic cyberpunk-esque style of it. But I don't see myself actually wanting to play it, to be honest with you. So Just Shapes and Beats is a different one, though. I think I'd give that a shot. I do enjoy rhythm games.
Yeah, Just Shapes and Beats is almost like Spitlings with some like trippy music in the background.
I'm down with that.
Like, everything going. Yeah, it's definitely a lot. So like the breakdown of that for anyone. So Just Shapes and Beats is a game that is already. We've seen it on multiple platforms. I think it might even be on the Vita that I mentioned as a portable thing that's gone. But in terms of the breakdown of that, it's Just Shapes and Beats, the game about shapes and beats. It's a new spin on the shoot 'em up genre. Adding a layer of cooperation that's at the core of the game because everything is better with friends. I feel like we've heard that term before. Everything is better with friends on another game breakdown. But anyway, play alone or up to 4 players, local or online, to the game's story mode and challenge runs. You do you, man. That is in the breakdown. You do you,
All
man.
right.
If you're a big fan of music, as we are, you're in for a treat. Every handcrafted stage is orchestrated to the jams of over 40 rad tracks from the awesome chiptune and EDM.
Rad. Totally rad, bro. It's bringing out that Californian surfer again, isn't it?
Went back to the 90s.
So, Tom, you said this one appeals to you a lot more. Is that just because
Yeah.
it's bright colours all over the place with music?
Yeah,
or?
I actually really enjoy like rhythm games and so on. And if they've got soundtracks that are a little bit more, I don't want to say generic, but a little bit less like mainstream and a bit more electronic or EDM or something like that, then yeah, I can have a lot of fun with it. I used to play a lot of games like Geometry Wars. I used to play, I'm not a rhythm game, but you get the idea. Very colourful, very simple, but the soundtrack is something that really just sort of like keeps you going and so on. Yeah, I enjoy it. So cool.
When do we think they're coming out?
That's the next thing. May, June.
Yeah.
I mean, its original release was May 2018, so let's just go with that. May 2020.
I thought you said May 2018.
Yeah.
It's already out, Richie. It's on the store right now.
Well, it is. It is on Switch and PlayStation 4 and Steam.
It's on the store right now. But yeah, it's great to see that we're getting some new games across to Stadia again. And again, indie titles very much help flesh out that library. I think we've seen that work so well on other gaming platforms. So keep them coming thick and fast, whether they're pro games or not. Every game isn't for everybody, which we need to remember. But as long as you get a couple interstitially spotted in there, that's always for the best. Moving on. Speaking of upcoming games, actually, just off the back of that, Get Packed, which all three of us are super, super excited about.
Yeah.
Developers Coatsink, I believe, Tom.
Coatsink are the publishers. It's developed by Moonshine, who are based in Cornwall. So it's a British game.
British game.
British game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you say Sega in a British accent for us, Richie?
What, you mean just say Sega?
Just say Sega. I don't know why you said British accent. I default to like Cockney as well, like the rest of the world. But all of us are British, quintessentially.
Yeah. This is a British accent.
This is.
So it's saying, I'm just doing it in a Scouse accent. It's like, I'm playing on my Sega.
Half the people are like, what in the world right
what
now?
Is he doing? Who is this?
I think I'm broken.
Yeah. So we have no fans left in Liverpool now.
Sorry, Liverpool fans.
But in regards to the actual game itself, we're super excited by Get Packed. We've been speaking a little bit about it pre-show. We reckon it looks like the Overcooked game, which I've had many laughs, many hours of fun playing, but into a moving simulator. And again, it's coming soon, and their competition ended over on Twitter. If you missed that, I think we shouted out last week to go over and check that out before it ends. But it's came to a wrap, which means there's no competition. They're starting to show loads of trailer information over on the Twitter account. Coming soon could actually be sooner than we thought. I'm
taking this as coming very soon. People have asked them on Twitter about when is the competition going to be when it's going to be shipped to them, and all they've just said is when the game comes out.
One thing I should add as well is that competition ended, but they are now giving away Stadia Pro passes. They have 5 passes to give away. So if you check out the Get Packed Game Twitter account, that's at Get Packed Game, then what you can do is you can also enter the competition there. All you need to do is just post the last picture from your mobile phone's camera reel, just to say, this is the last thing, the world is coming to an end. I've been told I've got to get out. I'm being evicted right now. This is the only thing I can take with me. That's all you've got to do. That's all you got to do. I ended up with pizza. So I'm all right.
Keep it PG friendly, though, if you want your competition entry to be safe.
I hope the winner is someone who's just about to move house and just have the removal van.
It's just some bloke who's taken a thumb face picture.
Hashtag real life.
Real life moving out. Exactly. Yeah. Well, we're all excited for this game. Yes, I think it's coming out this week. I want to say it.
Ooh, wow.
This week. So listen to this podcast on Monday onwards. It could already be out now.
That's a bold call considering it comes out from time of recording in 24 hours.
Yeah. I'm thinking it's this month, but I don't think it's this week.
I'm with Richie. I'm gonna say by the end of April. I know that's a bigger window.
Cowards.
Do I want to say?
I want a date. This Thursday.
All right. Just let me put my calendar so I don't pick
Let's have a
stupid day like a Sunday.
What do we reckon? Thursday the 16th.
Yeah, on the 16th.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's say mid-month.
I'm thinking the Thursday as well, because that's when Google usually drop their announcement.
No, you're all just copying off me now.
I'm going to go with the 23rd then.
Okay, so 3 Thursdays in a row. Let's see what happens.
I think you're right, Tom, but for the sake of competition.
What's the bet? Tom, you said your photo was of a pizza, right?
Mine was a pizza boys.
The winner gets bought a pizza?
Go on then. Yeah, let's do that. I'm in. I'm in. Pizza order.
Pizza bet done, locked in. So
you like Hawaiian, don't you?
Oh no, I don't like Hawaiian. We won't go. That's a whole different conversation. That's a whole different Patreon conversation of why pineapple does not belong on pizza. It tries to eat you. We'll get into it.
In fact, actually, what I will do right now is I will say something, an idea that has been brewing, gentlemen. I will announce on the podcast before we go now. I was thinking about doing a pizza making series for our Patreon subscribers as well, where we just literally stream me making pizzas at home and just chat shit, because I enjoy making pizzas. I post them on my Twitter account. You know,
you did. I saw that.
I love making homemade pizzas. I'll be making one again tonight.
Not with pineapple on, though, right?
Is this for practice?
No.
No.
Chris, have you ever made a homemade pizza before?
He's taken the plastic off and homemade it in his oven.
We could do it as a tutorial series where you are trying to teach me and Chris to do it. Do all three of us simultaneously.
It takes an artistic hand, I'm sure. But just to wrap up on the news stories, just to wrap up on the news stories this week. Little final one in there is the Borderlands dev teams taking some cuts on the bonuses and the profits, which I think is an article you added in, Richie, possibly?
Yeah. It's quite a controversial one because Gearbox apparently pay the staff less in wages but have a profit sharing system. So some of these developers were expecting to get sizable, 6-figure bonuses for the work that they've been doing, and they basically got told they're not getting it, and if they're not happy, they can just leave.
Yeah.
There's a Kotaku article, because we don't really have time to go into it now. I highly recommend you read to get the whole story of it.
Yeah.
It's not good luck.
No, to put it in a nutshell without spending too much time on it, because we're already overrunning as it is. But the Borderlands 3, huge success. Developers of the game were really hoping to see some sort of result of that, some fiscal result there. They're not. Instead, the CEO, however, it's a different story. Randy Pitchford, yeah. Interesting story, but I would recommend people check that out to get a good feel for it.
It's one of them stories. It's got quite a bit of nuance to it, so you kind of really have to read the article properly. We can't sum it up in a couple of minutes here.
There you go then. So you've got some required reading for your homework this week.
We'll quiz you on it next week.
We'll come back with some pertinent questions, whether you need to or not. And then very quickly, final one is I noticed this week that the Nintendo Switch is getting some ports, which just it gives me fresh rekindled hope that we're going to see some of these older games I've been hammering on about, like the Arkham games. I would love to see on Stadia, the BioShock collection. What else have we got? XCom 2, all the DLC, and Borderlands 1, 2, and the prequel game is all coming to Switch on May 29th. There's some big kind of bundle collections. Does that mean that we're going to see the BioShock collection and the rest of the Borderlands games coming to Stadia?
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. I don't know when, but I'd like to see 2K put a bit more support in with Stadia.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've obviously had the Borderlands stuff. Why not? The games are finished. It's just it's a port, and like you said, if they need to flesh out this library, you've got to imagine these conversations have been happening behind the scenes with Google, saying if you can get an entire collection of that's 3 games in one, that's enough to keep people saturated a little bit longer. And these are classic games as well. They're not just like some old
Borderlands and BioShock are definitely like critical darlings. XCom is got like a kind of cult following.
Yeah. I mean, more importantly, Tom's not played them.
Yeah.
Borderlands. No, we've not played the BioShock games. Do have the collection now, thanks to PlayStation, though, but I haven't touched it yet. One thing I would say, though, is Borderlands 3 has been relatively successful on Stadia as well. So I know a lot of people in the community picked it up because of the pricing point for it. And
the timing as well, probably, because there wasn't a lot out.
No, it was also relatively shortly after the game had come out, like a couple of months. So I think 2K should hopefully recognize that and see that there is the potential there for it. So who knows?
And the great thing is if they get them in this early doors, they're there for when betas start to roll out, and they're only going to see more sales off the back of it once that audience does grow.
Yes.
Fantastic. But, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we must leave you once again and recede into our homes and our isolated lives. But that brings us a wrap on episode 28 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. Remember, you can check us out on our YouTube channel /Sounds of Stadia. The Twitter account is also at Sounds of Stadia as well, where we'll keep you in the loop with all of our news stories and shows when they go live. Don't forget episode 20, no, that's this week, episode 10 of the Tomb Raider Let's Play also went up on Saturday. Just gone. Go check that out. Does Tom manage to kill a seagull or not this week? It was a crab the week before. What animals is he hunting down? You'll have to tune in to find out.
Wasting all of our bullets.
Wasting all of our precious ammunition. But that's how he lives, ladies and gentlemen. On the edge. On the edge. Making pizzas on the edge of the world. But yes, thank you very much again for listening. My name's Chris.
I've been Tom.
I've been Richie.
We've been Sounds of Stadia. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.